The story of Joe Burrow and his college career that was wrapped up last night is really the reason why I do this show. It's why I love sports. Beyond fandom, the camaraderie that fandom brings, and just the distractions that it brings from everyday life, the reason I love sports and the reason so many of you love sports listening is because of the lessons that it teaches us, the things that we can learn from the games. Because after all, they are just games, but they have much bigger meaning than that in our culture. And the lesson that Joe Burrow taught us, Joe Burrow has failed repeatedly, and it's why he succeeds. Joe Burrow was a prospect that was often overlooked. He originally enrolled at Ohio State University, his dream school being a kid growing up in Ohio, and that didn't work out. He couldn't win the starting job. They said, "Kid, you're not good enough. We're going with the other guy." And one can only imagine, as many of you listening have gone through failures, difficulties, didn't get the job that you wanted, didn't get into the school that you thought you wanted to go to. Can imagine that was tough for him. He has to transfer to LSU, a stacked program with talent, but a program that's underachieving, a team that just didn't have it at quarterback for so many years. They didn't have the coaching, they didn't have the abilities, they didn't put it all together. And things started a little bit rough. 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, completed only 57% of his passes when he finally earned a starting job at a college program. It didn't go very well. Joe Burrow enters his 5th-year senior season, a guy who's been around so long, you could pretty much write him off. He was a 5th-round pick, 7th-round pick. Some had him undrafted, but he didn't let it faze him. He kept working. He kept studying. It was very apparent on Monday night that at the end of the game, by the time they were up 35-25, I watched that game and I said, there's no way Clemson's coming back because they need a turnover, and this guy is not going to turn the ball over. He was so prepared. Every time a linebacker was on a faster receiver, that's where he was going to. He knew where he was going with the ball before the play happened. That's film study. That's not relying on talent and abilities like so many of these young prospects do, so many of these young kids do. He kept working on his craft tirelessly. He worked harder and harder. He studied the tape. He did everything that was asked of him and much more than that. He faced off against Alabama and Tua, the better quarterback. Not that game. He went on to beat 4 top 10 teams at the time. 4, something that's never been done before. Then he goes on to take on Oklahoma, the patriarch of college football, the unstoppable Oklahoma. I know they were down this year, but they're a big program. And he puts up 7 touchdowns and a half. Clemson had the number 1 defense in the country. No problem, 6 touchdowns. And he put up 2 touchdowns in the half after he broke his rib. I have news for you if you don't know this already. Life isn't Instagram. Life isn't Facebook. That's not real life. It's highlights. It's what people want to show you. They don't show you all the work that goes into it. They don't show you all the failures. They don't show you all the frustrations. Some stories are easier than others, but other people have to work harder. And Joe Burrow is one of those people that worked harder. You don't see in the movies, you don't see the struggles of these stories that we see. You see an hour and a half and you see 30 minutes of struggle and then the character succeeds. Everything is so instant. Instant gratification. That's what it's always about. That's what everything is about in our society. But life is hard. You're going to fail. You're going to fall down. You're going to feel depressed sometimes. That's normal. You're going to feel defeated. What's important is that you get up and you never give up. You learn from your failure so it doesn't repeat itself. In fact, failure is often the greatest gift. Just ask Joe Burrow. It makes us hungrier and want more. Joe Burrow learned to love the pain and the adversity on the day-to-day basis. So playing through a broken rib, that was nothing to him. He knew the pain was only temporary, but the feeling of a national championship would last forever. He will now be immortalized as one of the greatest college football quarterbacks ever. 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Just a year ago, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Yeah, you heard that right. He increased his touchdowns by 45 and interceptions only by 1. The endless pursuit of greatness that Joe Burrow had to go on, he had to work for it, brought him gifts and talents that I see on the field that really can't be taught. You have to want them. You have to go out and get them. The feathery touch on the ball, you couldn't walk down the field and hand it off, drop it in a bucket any more perfect than Joe Burrow throws the deep ball. His knowledge of where to go with the football before the ball was snapped was unmatched. He faced off again against a more talented quarterback, a better prospect by most accounts than he is, and he outperformed him because his studies, because of those failures, because of the struggles, because of what he had gone through. It had taught him to be in the film room. It had taught him to perform countless reps throwing the football, something that only the likes of Tom Brady and Drew Brees do, something that I only see feathery touch from Tom Brady and Drew Brees. And I'm not saying that Joe Burrow is going to have the same level of success, but I have to believe that Joe Burrow has put himself on the path to success because of the work that he has put in. Nothing in life is guaranteed. Joe Burrow, for all I know, could go into the NFL where he lands and be a bust. It's tough to be a number 1 draft pick. You usually end up with a very bad team. There's no way around it. But wherever Joe Burrow ends up, I have faith that he can persevere through the difficult times because that's just who Joe Burrow is. Joe Burrow is not extraordinarily gifted. He's gifted. He was given gifts by a creator or however you believe that we came to be. But Joe Burrow's story is about perseverance. It's about failure. In many ways, Joe Burrow is like so many of us. He wasn't given some extraordinary gift, some extraordinary talent, but he worked at this gift. He worked at this talent until it became extraordinary. For so many of us, the difference in life is not the opportunities that we're given. Definitely people are given more and some are given less, but it's what we do with the opportunities. And it took Joe Burrow a few extra opportunities, but man, did he put together something special. Joe Burrow is a national champion and the most unlikely of consensus number 1 overall picks in the NFL draft because of the failures, because of the adversity that he faced early on in his career. And I think that's a great story.